Today we're going to do our fifth comma mini lesson, and this mini lesson is going to focus on using commas with parenthetical expressions. So what's our rule? Our rule is to use commas to set off parenthetical expressions. It might help though if we learn what a parenthetical expression is. Parenthetical expression, isn't that a fun word, parenthetical? Anyhow, it is just a word or phrase that is not essential to the meaning of the sentence, which means we could take out that word or we could take out the phrase and the sentence would still hold its meaning and would still make sense. So let's take a look. There are four main types of parenthetical expressions that we're going to look at. And I'm going to have fun with the word parenthetical. First of all, names of people being addressed. So, listen carefully, Bob and Lucinda, while I explain. In this sentence, I am talking directly to Bob and Lucinda. They are being directly addressed, as the case may be, and so that is an example of a parenthetical expression, and we need to set it apart with commas. Notice we use a comma before the start of the phrase, so after the word carefully, and one at the end of the phrase, after Lucinda. So the expression that's set off is Bob and Lucinda. Also notice that we could take that out. Okay, so cover up Bob and Lucinda with a piece of paper or your finger, and the sentence still makes sense. Listen carefully while I explain. Okay, now we're not always going to use the people's names in the middle of the sentence. Sometimes we might use them at the end of the sentence. Like in the sentence, that's a logical conclusion, Pete. If this is the case, if you're using it at the end, you need a comma directly before the person's name, and then of course you'd end the sentence with a period, just like you would end any other sentence. Not pictured here, but you could also start the sentence with the person's name. So we could say, Pete, that's a logical conclusion. If we did that, we would put the comma after the word Pete, and then we would continue the rest of the sentence. So it really just depends upon the placement. If it's in the middle, though, we need to remember that we need to have two commas. Very beginning or very end, we only need one comma. Okay, so that's the first type. We also use it with certain adverbs. So let's take a look at the first sentence. The other sand dune, therefore, is several meters higher. Therefore is an example of an adverb. It's going to interrupt the sentence. It is a parenthetical expression. And we could take it out and the sentence would still make sense. The other sand dune is several meters higher. Notice because it comes in the middle of the sentence, we need the two commas. One at the beginning of the word and one at the end. Okay, the second sentence shows you an example of one of these adverbs used at the end of the sentence. Roberta will not be able to go with us, however. However is our adverb, our parenthetical expression, and we're going to use the comma directly before it. Again, sentence would still make sense, still hold all of its meaning, even if that word wasn't there. That's what makes it a parenthetical expression. We have some common expressions that we use when we write. For instance, the phrase I think. The sand, I think, is scarce on Peruvian deserts. I think can be taken out of the sentence and still make sense. It's just a parenthetical expression. Again, comes in the middle of the sentence, so we need a comma before the phrase starts and one when the phrase is over. Of course is one that I see in a lot of writing, and so really important to note, the phrase of course is a parenthetical expression, so you're going to need a comma. In the example sentence, they believe in her ability, of course, we have the phrase at the end of the sentence, so we need the comma directly before the phrase. We could, just like with the names, we could start the sentence with of course. Of course they believe in her ability. And if we did that, then we would need the comma after the word course. So again, really just depends upon the placement of the expression. And one more type, contrasting expressions. Contrasting means that we're going to look at opposites. So in the first sentence, These dunes, not those, resemble crescents. So not those contrasts, shows an opposite. It's the opposite of these dunes. So because it's a contrasting expression, we're going to set it apart with commas. The second sentence, the decision should be mine, not yours. Not yours is our contrasting expression. It shows the opposite because the opposite of mine would be yours. As always, as you're working with these, if you have any questions on any of them, please let me know.